What's happening, Ken Folk? How we doing today?
Oh,
This your
good.
boy. Right, cool,
Sir.
cool.
Yes, sir. Ready to
Well, we
jump
back.
in with that word, man.
Let's get it, man. We back at it. Certainly got a good word today, and really looking forward to a good dialogue just around, what we're going to talk about. So we'll jump into the word of the day. It's coming from First Timothy, chapter 2, verses 5 and 6. It says, "For there is one God and one mediator who can reconcile God and humanity, the man, Christ Jesus. He gave his life to purchase freedom for everyone." And, I'll just be brief, man. Like, you think about what a mediator does. That's a go between. It's generally tied to a lawyer or a legal proceeding to where there are two sides at conflict. And then you have a mediator that's listening, trying to be balanced and neutral to bring clarity and balance to a practical solution there. And so one of the descriptions I think that was in Isaiah, they taught that, is wonderful. He said counselor. And we don't really focus on that word, but Jesus stood in the office of a lawyer for us because we had sinned and we needed to be reconciled with God. We were at odds with God, meaning we as humanity, we had fallen. And though there were multiple attempts for God to try to help us get back right, we still could not do that. And that's why Jesus had to come, but he had to come as a man. And this one said he was the man. And just thinking about that role that he played, not just as an example, not just as the lamb, not just as a sacrifice, not just as God here on earth, but really as a lawyer for us. Like we had a bill, we had a warrant out there, man, as human beings. And he came as a mediator for reconciliation. Reconcile means to bring two parties at odds back together. So we were at odds with God since the fall as humans. And it was just important that we understand that he was a go between, like he stood in the gap. But a part of that was him coming down here and going through earthly experiences, like putting on skin and knowing how that felt, how sin pulls at skin, how sin is in skin, in our flesh, right? Like that's a part of what we were born into. And so for him to be able to come, walk in our shoes, but also have the perspective of God and knowing where God was coming from. He said, "Man, you don't see me doing nothing that my Father don't do. What you see of me is what He is." And so, yeah, God was very, straightforward. And hey, this is what that costs. Sin equals death. You got to pay that price. That's the judgment. But in His long suffering and in his love for His people, He tried to always provide an out, provide a bond, if you will, for us. And we never lived up to it. Like we kept blowing it, man. So again, I just appreciated that, just showing how Christ served as a go-between, as a mediator to bring in reconciliation. That was an important role. That was a big part of what he had to do as well, the ultimate purpose. And he took these tangible steps, life, death, and resurrection to get us there. But him coming down and being able to walk in our shoes enabled him to better make the case for us on why we be tripping. Like they can't help it. They just can't help it. So I just wanted to put that out there, man. I thought it was a good verse. And certainly ready to turn it over to my brothers, man. See what y'all got out of that.
Man, that's dope. Well, yeah, Johnny Ray. How you feeling, man?
No, I agreed, man. That's definitely dope and powerful, and just makes us think as us as fathers. And as a father, no, we tell our kids don't do X, Y, and Z, but they're still gonna try it, not knowing that we have walked down that same path, and we've seen the pros, cons, and everything else that can come with the decisions that are being made. So just being mindful of decision making as we teach our kids as we're fathers, which also being the leader of our household, that increases. I want to say increase the responsibility of us looking at our higher source of God and walking in His path and His shoes and looking toward Him for the guidance. But I just took out of it as me being a father of my kids and trying to show them the way because I think we've said it. I know you've said it several times, B. They see what kids see what you do, not hear what you say.
Yeah,
So if we telling them don't go out there and drink, but I'm getting drunk at home every day,
yeah,
it's fighting a losing battle.
yeah,
So
yeah. I just think off the bat, man, it's a great perspective, and it gives you the play to have balance in life. You know what I'm saying? There's just so many amazing things that Jesus did, but the one thing that stands out consistently is his servanthood. right? His mission required him to give up everything. And when you pause and think about it, he ain't really getting nothing out of the deal. And so the verse for me is timely, just like they all have been, because I think this verse, when you read it 1 through 15, I think it's 15 verses in the 15 verses in this particular passage. It deals with worship and prayer and speaks to the importance of it, right? I talked about Jesus not getting anything out of the deal, but God wants everybody to be saved through Christ, right? This is why we are called to pray for everyone. When people persecute you, somebody did you wrong, somebody on the job, your kids take you for granted, or you just ain't really feeling loved at the moment, whatever the situation may be, the goal is to have them saved through prayer versus you trying to get revenge because somebody did you wrong. So that's kind of what God's goal was by sending Christ to kind of right the ship with humanity and mankind. And so I've actually said this before, man. People can't see God in their everyday walk physically, but they can see God in you. They can see what you do. They can see how you move, right? And so the goal is to not to cause anyone to stumble because of your actions and what you do, because you missed the opportunity to make an impact because of how you reacted to something that was done to you. And so, I just talked about God and you not being able to see God in your everyday walk. Conversely, just because you can't see Satan don't mean he ain't real. And what he does is he shows up in the form of disappointment and depression and setbacks. Or you losing out on an opportunity that you feel like was yours or you should have had, or it was your time, or whatever the case may be. But that's his game plan. And so if Satan, the devil, is able to successfully execute on his game plan, I'm going to run off of several D's and y'all try to follow me. The devil, if he execute his plan, he keeps you in darkness. If you're in darkness, you're easily deceived. When you're deceived, you start to operate in despair. And then that leads to disobedience. And he got you right where he wants you. So what the kinfolk going to tell you is to keep looking up. Keep looking past your situation and be encouraged. For God's plan is to prosper you and not to harm you. His plans is to give you hope and to give you future. That's church in the streets.
So one of the verses says, this is the message God gave to the world at just the right time, Ken. And you think about the time that we in now. And I think this Kinfolk podcast and the ability to bring church to the street is just at the right time. There's a lot of darkness. There's a lot of despair. There's a lot of disobedience. And people don't know which way to go. And I think sometimes the religion has made it tough for people to really grab it and see how can I really make that work for me. So a big part of what we're doing is trying to display it in a practical way, but also saying that there is grace now. And not to put so much pressure on yourself to be perfect, but just pursue him. Just seek ye first the kingdom, and all these things will be added. And that does include promotion. That does include peace. That does include a plan for your life. And when you got a plan, you can execute, man, like it's on you then. Right? And so I just appreciate that word, fellas. It was obviously something that connected to us, and y'all just really shared some really strong nuggets, man. So that's gonna do it for the church in the streets, man. Kinfolk Nation, y'all let us know how y'all felt, what y'all got out of that, respond to it, and we would love to hear some feedback, man. So let's keep it moving, fellas.
Absolutely. We're gonna get into something a little different today, man. I know we just recently celebrated Mother's Day, and I got Johnny Ray on deck that's gonna pose a question for us, man, and maybe a little controversial, but that's okay. We're gonna be able to talk about it, and diversity of thought is good. So what you got, Reed? What you got for us in the Kinfolk community?
Yeah, man, just on the heels of Mother's Day, I know Mother's Day to me has a superior meaning. It's probably one of the I guess my most proudest holidays as far as getting a gift or celebrating with someone is able to celebrate my mom as well as my wife, the mother of my kids. I was having a dialogue with some buddies about, from a husband standpoint with his wife, if he's, obligated to get his wife a Mother's Day gift, which that was the first time I really heard that or even thought about that, because to the guy that was talking to his point was, my wife is not my mother. She's the mother of my kids. He stated that when his kids were younger, he did buy his wife a gift and presented it with the kids. But as the kids got grown, he felt it was their responsibility to celebrate their mother on Mother's Day, just like he does with his mother. Now, I guess I have personal thoughts of that for myself. I do celebrate my wife just like I do my mother, but I can see how someone can look at that and say, "Hey, this is not my mom." The mother, your kids, especially when you have grown kids, leaving them that responsibility. I would say not only do I celebrate my wife, I celebrate all the women that I know, all the women in my family, because motherhood is such a beautiful thing, and there's so many hats that a mother and a matriarch of a family has, in setting the standard for the family. So I just thought it was a very interesting conversation, regardless whether you're obligated or if you just feel it in your heart to do something for your spouse or your baby mama, whoever it may be, since they had your kids. So I'd like to get y'all thoughts on that, man. What do you think? Should there be an obligation to get your wife or spouse or significant other, baby mamas, all a gift? Or should you leave it up to the kids?
Yeah. I have some thoughts on it. See what you think, man. You want to jump in that thing?
Yeah, I jump in. Like the word obligation in itself speaks to intent or your perspective on it. Like there should be no obligation. Either you with it or you not. And these man-made holidays are just opportunities to celebrate whatever we celebrate. And so if you feel like this person is deserving of a gift, if you are in a relationship to where you appreciate someone, you look for opportunities to show that, whether it's Mother's Day or just birthday or whatever day. I grew up in a house where my mom was the only lady in the house. We didn't have a lot of means and resources. We didn't really go big on a lot of holidays, but it's very important for us to show and tell her how much we appreciated her. My dad showed me the way. He showed us the way as kids of appreciating and celebrating mama and all that she does. We talked about being a mediator and all this stuff. What Christ did, like mom was a mediator for us. Like we fell out of bounds with dad a lot. And so while sometimes she would sick and moan us, she'd have to come back and clean it up on the backside and tell us, hey, man, he loves y'all. This is why. And really communicate things because he wasn't a man of a lot of words when it came to that stuff. And so just thinking through that and now seeing the role that my wife plays, like I appreciate my wife. I appreciate my mom. I appreciate her mom and this motherhood in general because it's a giving. It's a giving of yourself. It's an unselfish state that you're in. To where if it doesn't attract appreciation, then either it's not being done well or the person don't appreciate it that you're doing it for. So, again, I kind of struggle with the thought around obligation. I think it's an opportunity to show that, hey, I appreciate you. And there is no cutoff for me. Like, I'm going to celebrate my mom for as long as I have her. I'm going to celebrate my wife as a mother of my kids for as long as we are together. And as long as, that's forever, in my opinion. And I'm going to celebrate the mothers around us because that is such a significant role in the family structure and it has to be appreciated. Like that's a big deal to me. So, again, for somebody to ask that question, they may already have some feelings about why they don't want to celebrate someone. And I'm not speaking to that person, but it's like Valentine's Day and Christmas when you was a player, like you trying to exit relationships. So you ain't got to do nothing.
Already.
And that's just my perspective on it, Ken.
Yeah, man. So I'm going to come in and start this way, bro. So we all came from a woman. I got my name from a woman. And I got my game from a woman. So, I could appreciate my mom, right, and just have a tremendous amount of respect for her being a single mother and her doing the best she could with what she had, right? So naturally, when you get older, you look at things differently because as you mature and you grow, you find that significant other, and it's a blessing to be a blessing. C kind of spoke to it and really did some really good job of articulating some of my similar thoughts. Like, God has blessed me so I can be a blessing to other folk, right? And I spoke earlier in the session about Jesus and his servanthood. And so looking for opportunities to always be of service to somebody else. That's what the gospel is about, right? You don't climb the mountain, they get on the mountaintop to just look down and look out at everybody else. The perspective is to get to the mountaintop so you can look out and see who need help. And so as it relates to Mother's Day, man, just always celebrating and uplifting my mother because there's so many valuable lessons that I was exposed to and learned as a kid, things I got exposed to, things that she spoke into my life that kind of helped shape my perspective as an adult, right? Good and bad. And so, but I wouldn't change it because it's made me who I am. It kind of helped give me the confidence to walk out who I need to be and what God created me to be. And so as I see my kids, I just see that as an example. As you alluded to earlier, Reed, you can't expect your kids to listen and pay attention to what you say and ignore what they see you do. So if they see you not celebrating their mom on Mother's Day, what value do it have to them, right? And this is not dealing with right or wrong. This is just speaking to how conversation with kinfolk feel. And this is Mike's perspective, right? And I spoke about this on our Valentine's show. I think just in society in general, we could put pressure on ourselves to try to make this holiday or this situation bigger than what it is because maybe the expectation you may have. And so just kind of breaking it down in its simplest form, man, you know, in theory, I would like to say that every day is Mother's Day for my wife because of the lifestyle that God has blessed us with, the resources that we have, the impact we have on people, the stewardship we have on people. But the reality is I get caught up in a routine just like everybody else, you know, trying to find that time between working, the people that are connected to you, they may call and ask for your advice, the job, picking up from this particular practice or going here or maybe helping with homework. And then at the end of the day, you're like, what I got to give to this situation? That ain't fair to me or her. And so you park this Mother's Day like regardless of how I feel, I'm celebrating my mom through gifts and love. But I also want to take this time out for my wife to like, look, if you want to go get your toes done or your nails done, if you want to go get a massage, or you don't have to be worried about trying to provide food today, you do whatever it is. If you want to go hit a rooftop bar and have a drink, you do that. You do whatever it is you want to do because I'm going to take care of all the other things. And there's a good balance every day between the responsibilities that are shared. But this particular day, don't worry about any of that. I'm going to make sure breakfast is taken care of. I'm going to make sure lunch is taken care of. I'm going to make sure dinner is taken care of. And it's not a competition thing, right? Because I did X, Y, and Z this particular day, don't feel like it has to be reciprocated on Father's Day. It's just an opportunity for me to be a servant, to express my love, to show you how I feel about you. And as C just said, I'm going to celebrate my mama as long as she's here and as long as I'm here. And I'm going to continue to celebrate my wife because between the news, social media, and everything else that get fed to us, we have these type of conversations and people get caught up in the riffraff. And so this particular day, to my wife, I just want to show you that you are special. I feel that way every day, but I'm not gonna let anything get in the way of me showing you that today through acts of service and through words of affirmation. And so that's how I feel about it, Ken. I mean, my mama is my mama. She always gonna be that. My wife is my wife, and she is a mom to my kids. Without her, I don't have them. So it's a blessing to me, man. That's where I'm landing on it. Conversation with kinfolk.
Well, folks, chime in. This is an interesting topic we wanted to bring out. I know there's some fellas, because I've had a few conversations with some guys who feel one way or the other. And there is no right or wrong. It's just interesting to hear the dialogue, because I think at the end of the day, it may change someone's mind for the better or change their heart and give them a different perspective and a way to look at it. So if you're out there, chime in. Tell us what you think. Should the husband, boyfriend, dad, significant other, whatever, be, I won't say obligated? Should they look to their wife, look to do something special on Mother's Day is the question. So chime in, leave us a comment. You in conversations with kinfolk.
100.